From the Grayman Briefing, this is a summary of recent developments regarding the Second Amendment, cybersecurity, protests, supply chain disruptions, national security, law and order, free speech, censorship, government oversight, and more. Now, for your situational awareness, Super Essie will be reading out the latest update. Get briefs sent in real time at graymanbriefing.com. That's Gray with an A. Let's get into it.
Beginning with current events, let's talk about that abnormal trading activity at Trump Media and Technology Group. That's TMGT, but it's traded as DJT. A review of DJT markets show an unusually high day volume on July 12th, which was the day before the assassination attempt on Trump. The day's high was about 15 million, which is significantly above typical values, with a volume of 35 million. Between July 1st and July 12th, short positions against DJT increased by 60%, indicating expectations of a significant drop in value. The spike in trading activity coincided with Meta's removal of guardrails from Trump's social media accounts, potentially affecting the value of DJT. This pattern of record shorts is reminiscent of the activity seen before the 9/11 attacks against United Airlines and American Airlines. The assessment of this high taking of short positions indicates someone believed the value of Trump's media empire would fall between the 13th and 15th of July, suggesting they anticipated Trump would be killed over the weekend. One firm who took the largest number of shorts later blamed the move on a clerical error. Moving on, obviously we probably should all know this by now, but Biden is not running for office and has stepped out of the race, and also the U.S. Secret Service Director has resigned her position. Shifting into government oversight, over in the country of Germany, the courts there have ruled that the Domestic Intelligence Agency can continue to classify the far-right Alternative for Germany party as an extremist threat, allowing for continued surveillance and the banning of those members possessing firearms. This decision is seen as a government overreach by many, given the party's rising popularity and electoral success. So those in that right-leaning party are prohibited from owning guns because the country's agency says they're extremist. Back in America, California governor signed AB 1995 into law, making California the first and only state prohibiting school districts from requiring staff to notify parents if a child requests a gender identity change. Proponents argue it protects LGBT students, while opponents believe it undermines parental rights. Southern California School District has sued the governor over the law, and Elon Musk is moving his operations of SpaceX and X from California to Texas in response to this law's signage. Now looking at the cybersecurity briefings. A global internet infrastructure outage is affecting a wide range of services, including flight delays, inaccessible bank accounts, disruptions of healthcare appointments, ER equipment, and more. The issue is linked to a cybersecurity update from CrowdStrike, which has caused problems with Microsoft Windows software. CrowdStrike was working on a fix, but the timeline for that resolution was uncertain. The disruptions are still ongoing, particularly at hospitals who are sporadically having their systems crash. This means they can't look up patient room numbers, they can't use MRI or view their MRI results. Just highly disruptive events at hospitals. And this is nationwide. We've got plenty of hospitals diverting patients from theirs to another ER. There's almost no coverage on this in mainstream media as they're very busy talking about Trump, Biden, and Harris. But please look more into this outage, the CrowdStrike outage. It is massive, and we're not hearing much about it. In Australia, people couldn't use credit cards. They couldn't take money from their bank accounts. Imagine not having any money, not having cash, and you can't use your card. Here in America, you've got places like Starbucks and gas stations. You can't use credit cards. This is massive, but we're not going to get too far into it right now. Let's jump over to some more cybersecurity information and just do kind of a quick national summary. A series of significant cybersecurity incidents have occurred recently. AT&T reported a breach affecting nearly all customers' call and text logs, and in the past week, they admitted that FirstNet customers were also impacted. In Indiana, they faced a new ransomware attack by Blacksuit, causing significant disruptions there. A new ransomware as a service platform, El Dorado, has emerged. The U.S. Supreme Court's recent ruling, some say, could lead to confusion in cyber regulations. Hackers leaked 39,000 printed home Ticketmaster tickets, and the Rock U 2024 password leak was gigantic. 9.9 billion passwords leaked in that one. The Evolve data breach affecting 7.6 million consumers compromised personal information from the online gaming community. That ransomware attack on CDK affecting approximately 15,000 dealerships has been resolved after a $25 million ransom was paid to hackers associated with Black Suit. Okay, let's jump now into that major incident, the Trump assassination attempt. So, since our last broadcast, there have been 4 additional updates to this incident. The GBC's latest updates are something like 8 pages long, so for time purposes, I'm not going to dig into them right now, but I do have a few highlights to share. We'll go over these real quick. There are no recordings for radio communications for that day, according to the Secret Service director who's now resigned. So the recordings, there are none, just for that day. She noted that it's up to individual details if they're going to record their radio comms, and I guess this detail decided not to. The director also admitted she knows how many casings were found on the roof, but refused to tell Congress. However, Director Ray later gave testimony that there were 8 casings recovered. She also denied there were any law enforcement snipers on the water tower. She admitted but retracted that the shooter had been determined to be a threat 5 minutes prior to the shots. She admitted that the suspect had been deemed suspicious about an hour before the shots and was observed with 2 items that were prohibited at rallies by Secret Service. They were seen, the shooter was seen with these prohibited items at least 20 minutes prior to the shots, so not sure why someone seen 20 minutes prior with at least 2 prohibited items were allowed to stay on the grounds. Local LE says they were blocked from being in the command post, but the director said that they did have local LE in that command post and therefore would have heard radio traffic from other LE to include their warnings about the shooter. If you want to see the full coverage that the Grayman Briefing has on this assassination attempt, go to graymanbriefing.com and just sign up. Alright, let's look now at civil unrest. In New York City, on July 8th, pro-Ukrainian protesters rallied at Times Square, calling for Russia to, quote, stop killing Ukrainian children. Following that recent missile barrage by Russia, Ukraine claims children were killed in the attack, though it's unclear if those children were at a hospital that was supposedly targeted. Patriot Front marched in Nashville. They did so without permits, but were on sidewalks. They wore masks, carried shields, held Confederate flags and upside-down American flags. Police monitored that situation, but did not make any arrests. And of course, per the norm, Patriot Front arrived in U-Haul moving trucks. In Los Angeles, at the LA Department of Health and Services building, activists protested on July 8th, calling for more mask mandates, taxpayer grants for air filtration devices for public buildings, and awareness for long COVID. The fear-mongering mask group, which included children, held signs that read, "Masking is bodily public autonomy, and if you knew what I know about long COVID and me/CFS, you would be wearing masks instead of banning them." In Butler, PA, well, this is just the quick summary of the assassination attempt. We'll skip that one. In Queens, pro-Palestinian protesters gathered outside a synagogue, leading to physical altercations between Jewish attendees and the protesters. So this is kind of a cross-reference to New York City and Georgia. So in New York City, the Transit Liberation Front claims inspiration from the Black revolutionaries in Atlanta, who called for a summer of resistance against the Zionist clients linked to public transit entities. In response, the Omni subway machines were destroyed in New York City. In Portland, Oregon, Antifa and hijab-wearing instigators disrupted an outdoor Christian worship event using megaphones, shouting blasphemous statements, and telling volunteer personal security to kill themselves. In New York City, residents in one neighborhood protested against the construction of a homeless shelter. There were multiple arrests made of just the neighbors who were protesting against this homeless shelter in their neighborhood. Back in LA, pro-Palestinians destroyed CAT bulldozers, CAT the construction company, by injecting expanding foam and superglue into the equipment's components and hoses. They claim Israel uses CAT equipment to cleanse Palestinian villages. In Cleveland, Ohio, pro-Palestinians continued to protest in residential neighborhoods. including surrounding one person's house that they say was involved in, I don't know, I think he's a county official and he oversees investments, and they say one of those investments was linked to Israel. And in Minnetonka, Minnesota, 11 activists associated with the People's Action Institute were arrested during a protest outside United Healthcare's headquarters. Protesters blocked the building entrance, protested against the company's alleged systematic practicing of denying care through prior authorization and claim denials. Moving back into the RNC there in Milwaukee, anti-Trump activists protested outside that RNC. Mass protesters and those affiliated with Patients Over Profit, pro-Palestinians, Antifa, and many others chanted, "No Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA." The protest, part of the coalition to march on the Republican National Convention rally, continued for multiple days. Signs read, "Lock him up, ban books, not bombs." Multiple assaults occurred, and a man wielding a knife was shot and killed by police. Another armed man carrying an AK-47 pistol, was a Draco, was arrested while approaching the RNC. Code Pink activists assaulted a U.S. representative. Black Lives Matter later came out, and what they did, so if you remember me mentioning this one guy who had a knife, it was a homeless man. So this was right outside the secure perimeter of the RNC. It was just an issue between this homeless man and another homeless man, and the suspect had two knives, went running towards a unarmed man trying to stab him. Police intervened, and these were Ohio police working in Milwaukee to secure the RNC. So they intervened and shot the man before he could stab the unarmed person. But Black Lives Matter says, hey, you shouldn't have shot him, let him stab the person, I don't know. So they're out there protesting while the RNC is ongoing. So big mess there at the RNC with mass protest outside. But other than those 2 or 3 events, it was mostly peaceful. But very, very big disturbance. Shifting into Washington, D.C., pro-Palestinian extremists organized a direct action in Washington, D.C. on July 23rd, 24th, calling for the arrest of Israel's prime minister. They funded buses to transport supporters from 13 different states to gather at that Capitol building, and specifically the Rotunda. Sponsors include Code Pink, Alawada, Palestinian Youth Movement, and others. On the first day, that was the 23rd, there was over 200 arrested after they tried to break into offices of Congress and refused to leave and disperse, and the protests were ongoing also on the 24th, especially out in the streets. We did this one kind of quickly. The main thing we didn't cover today was all those updates on the Trump assassination attempt, and you know where to go if you want more of those. That's it for this week's summary of recent developments. Remember that these briefings are delivered in real time to Grayman Briefing subscribers sent via the Telegram and Signal apps. The briefings are also sent weekly via email. Due to time constraints and the risk of censorship, we can't cover it all here. The Grayman Briefing is open to the public on Instagram and Telegram. Give them a follow there or subscribe. And please comment. Comment here, comment on their socials. Thanks for listening. Remain aware, be vigilant, and stay safe.
Get unredacted, real-time briefings sent via email and through the Telegram and Signal apps by joining the Grayman Briefing.